So, I finally got around to playing The Outer Worlds. This game has been out for a while now, and as a massive Fallout fan, I really did want to see what Obsidian would do. Fallout New Vegas is great, and in anticipation, I tried avoiding as much promotional material as possible on the lead up to the launch of this game, so I wouldn't get spoiled. I was hyped. And then I didn't get it. In all honesty, I forgot about it, and never got around to checking it out. Yes, my small attention span is coming back again. But then, this weekend, it popped up for me again on the Xbox store, and I finally decided to say feck it and dive in. I mean, it's an RPG, and it's in space. What isn't to love? After about 3 days on the game, I can say that I overall had an amazing experience. I was a bit skeptical at first. The opening 30 minutes weren't really for me, and that just means I was even more outstandingly surprised when I came across the first main portion of the game. I want to take a minute or two to tell you about the quest, this first main quest, and why I like it, so I'm gonna go in depth here. If you don't want spoilers, you can skip to the time currently on the screen. It is only spoilers for the first mission though, so I wouldn't stress too much. So basically, it involves you stumbling across this town. It's the first proper town you encounter in the game. It looks relatively inconspicuous at first, but when you get closer you see this massive graveyard in front of the town. You investigate further, and you basically learn that this town is a colony of the Halcyon Board, a small group of corporations that control all of the colonies in space. You may think, at first, alright, well, that's a bit sketchy, but okay. But then you enter the town and you find out more, and as you progress the first major quest line in the game, you discover that this town are less normal than usual. The people who live here don't really have lives and autonomy, and they're more like corporate slaves than humans. They dress in compliance with company dress code. They all have to contribute in some way to the community, or they die or get kicked out and left for dead. You can only eat one thing in this town, saltuna, a dish which is manufactured by the company that the town is owned by. So basically, they are just making money off the survival of the people in this town and exploiting them by making it only legal to eat one thing and only providing them with one food source. So basically, it's a capitalist hellhole. It's pure unfiltered capitalism. I mean, you can't even have your own haircut. You have to have a board-approved haircut, which is insane, as you can kind of tell. But basically, you go into this town looking for a spare generator to repair your ship, and you get told to shut down the power source of a group of deserters who left the town due to its capitalistic nature. So basically you find out that they went because they believed that they wanted freedom and they wanted a proper life. So basically you go out and you find that they are living this free, proper life. They've found a way to grow healthy crops in space, and have food that isn't saltuna. They can dress and live life however they please. It's a libertarian's wet dream. They are nice to you, and you can help them recover a lost girl, and then you can talk to the loving and kind you can talk to the lovely and kind members of their community. The leader of the deserters, though, finds out your plan and offers you an alternative. You can take the generator part from the, town of the free people, or you can go back to the capitalist city and take their generator for your ship. Basically, whatever you do, one of the towns is gonna run out of power and die and get lost. To, time, I guess. But basically, you have this choice, because, yeah, if you take the power from one of them, the society pretty much just falls into chaos. And is going to be taken by bandits and monsters that roam nearby because they won't have defenses to protect them, or they'll just run out of food, etc. So you can either spare the deserters who live with freedom and live happy, healthy lives, but are still much weaker and susceptible to being eradicated by the monsters nearby, or you can spare the big capitalist machine, which will inevitably last longer with power than the free town would last with power. But the thing is, in this town, in the capitalist area, of course, people are being brainwashed into being happy with a system that abuses them, extorts them, and leaves anyone who isn't perfect, i.e. the disabled, sick, or old, to die in the wilderness, and makes their family pay for this, calling it death fees. On your way to the power plant to disconnect one of the towns from the power, you find out that in the free town, the way they survive and make food to live off is by using corpses to make fertilizer, specifically human ones. So with this info, you go to the power station and you make your choice. Now, as you can kind of see, there are a lot of factors to process when you make this choice. Like, you know, how the free people could easily just return to the capitalist town if their village is destroyed. Or, you know, how the free people literally use human bodies to grow food. But you make the decision in the end. I ended up actually surprising myself when I played this, and I saved the capitalist town as I felt it would minimize the overall deaths. I also found out there was a way to make the capitalist town less capitalist by getting rid of the old mayor and appointing a new one. So, yes, I figured that if I'd shut off the deserters' power and made them return, and appointed someone from that group to be in charge, it would solve both problems. The deserters could return and work on making life better for the people in the capitalist town, and we wouldn't have to leave anyone to die. Now, there are a lot more details that made this choice morally grey, but I do want to keep this explanation as simple as possible. I really liked this questline, and it really pulled me into the world of the game right off the bat. And it doesn't stop there. When you fix up your ship and leave the planet, you soon discover that this isn't limited to this colony. Every planet and every colony and every town in this universe are run by the corporations. And people are just fine with this abuse of power, with the pure capitalist system they live under controlling them and denying them their rights, because they have never known anything else. They think this is just normal. This game is chock full of morally grey quests and choices. Hard choices that make actual weight and consequences, and I love it. This is what RPGs should be. This is what these kind of games should be. If you've watched any of my other review things, you already know how much I just love morally grey writing. Writing that really makes me think and engages my brain. This story and these quests are where the game truly excels. It's fun, slightly dark, but still satirical, light and funny, and the characters and world building make for an absolutely amazing backdrop and world for this game to be set in. This game is so alive as well. I feel like I'm in a Star Wars movie when I play it. Like, I legitimately feel like I'm in a Star Wars spin-off film. It's absolutely sick. And as for the rest of the game, I found it a bit hit or miss. The combat isn't really the best. Sometimes it's a little satisfying, but sometimes it can kind of fill me with a sense of dread. Like, you know that video game dread where you're getting tired of a set of the same kind of gameplay, and you're like, oh goddamn, I have to do more just to see the end of the story. Yeah, it's that kind of dread. I never really encountered any bugs, which is a good sign that this definitely isn't a Bethesda game. Sorry. Look, honestly, although I just made a joke, I really hope Obsidian can kind of break away more from Bethesda. It really sounds like they're making a fantasy game now, and good for them, honestly. I really hope people stop comparing them to Bethesda, because I think Obsidian really has the potential to make games hundreds of times better than Bethesda, and The Outer Worlds shows this, setup and potential. With the world building and storytelling here, I really hope that Obsidian can do it again and knock it out of the park with the fantasy genre and beat Skyrim. Other than the story and world building of this game, the rest was a bit meh for me. I enjoyed the atmosphere of this game, but yeah, the combat was once again kind of hit or miss. Towards the end of the game, I just felt like I'd had enough of the combat. The weapon upgrading and the character leveling was cool and great, but the combat itself was meh, and I felt that on certain planets, the enemy types were too samey to me. So, to recap, I loved the story, I loved the world building and the atmosphere, I'm kind of meh on the combat, and it ran pretty decently on Xbox One. There were a lot of loading screens, especially in certain areas, but I was never too bothered with them. Occasionally the game would freeze if I was sprinting in a big city, but these moments were far enough apart that it wasn't really a big problem, just slightly frustrating when it happened. The game is fun, but I think only if you like this genre already. I don't think it'll bring anyone new into this type of video game. I cannot wait, however, to see what Obsidian do next. 7 out of 10.